They said the Crimson Portal only appeared once every 100 years, and when it did, entire star systems vanished. Kael didn't believe in legends until the hierarchy showed him the data. 17 civilizations, gone without a trace, always within weeks of the portal's manifestation. Now it was appearing again, and this time someone had to go through it. That someone was him, intelligence operative, ex-soldier, and apparently the only human stupid enough to volunteer for a suicide mission. What they didn't tell him was that he wouldn't be going alone. The briefing room on Command Station Osiris was sterile white, designed to eliminate distractions. Kael stood at attention while Admiral Thorne paced, his mechanical leg clicking rhythmically against the floor. "The refugee arrived 3 days ago," Thorne said without preamble. "Escaped from the Vale sector, the last known location of the portal's previous appearance. She claims she has information about its nature and purpose." "A survivor?" Kael's interest sharpened. "From a vanished civilization?" "Not exactly." Thorne activated a holographic display. A figure materialized, humanoid but distinctly alien, with skin that seemed to shimmer between silver and deep violet, and eyes without pupils, just swirling galaxies of light. "This is Lyss. She's Shry. Her people were the guardians of the portal, before they weren't." "Guardians? So they created it?" "No, they were appointed to keep others away from it. She says the portal isn't a weapon, it's a doorway, and something on the other side has been trying to get through for thousands of years." Kael studied the frozen image. Lyss stood with her arms crossed, defiant even in hologram form. Something about her posture reminded him of soldiers he'd served with, people who'd lost everything and kept fighting anyway. Why did she run? Her entire order was slaughtered when a faction decided to open the portal instead of guarding it. She barely escaped. Now she's offering to help us close it permanently, but she won't tell us how unless we agree to take her with us. With us? You and her, through the portal. You map the other side, find the mechanism to seal it, and get out before the window closes. You'll have 72 hours. After that, the portal collapses and you're trapped on the other side forever. Kael absorbed this. 72 hours to explore an unknown dimension, disable an ancient mechanism, and return with an alien he'd never met who probably blamed humanity for not stopping the massacre of her people. When do I meet her? Lyss was smaller than he expected, barely reaching his shoulder, but she moved like coiled lightning. When he entered the prep bay, she was inspecting a weapon, some kind of energy rifle that hummed with barely contained power. "You're the human," she said without looking up. Her voice carried harmonics, multiple tones layered over each other like a chorus. "They told me you volunteered. I didn't believe them. Humans don't volunteer to die." Maybe I'm curious. Curiosity is what killed my people. She finally looked at him, and he felt the weight of those galaxy eyes. The faction that opened the portal, they were curious too. Now they're screaming in the void, neither alive nor dead, consumed by what came through. Then why go back? Because if I don't close it, your worlds will be next. And unlike some species, I don't run from my responsibilities just because they're terrifying. The barb landed, but Kael didn't rise to it. Instead, he picked up a second rifle from the equipment rack. "I read your file. Lyss of the 7th Watch, last guardian of the Crimson Gate. You held off an army for 6 hours while civilians evacuated. 43 confirmed kills before you retreated. That's not running. That's surviving to fight again." Something flickered in her expression. Not quite surprise, but close. "You actually read it." "I always research my partners." "Partners?" She tested the word. "Is that what we are?" "For the next 72 hours, we're all each other has." Lyss holstered her weapon and stepped closer, studying him with an intensity that felt like being scanned. You've killed before. I can see it in the way you stand. You carry ghosts. Don't we all? Some of us carry entire civilizations. Her voice dropped the harmonics, becoming almost human in its weariness. Can you trust me, Kael? Can you trust someone whose failure already cost billions of lives? He thought about the missions that had gone wrong, the soldiers he'd lost, the decisions that haunted him. Can you trust someone who's made the same mistakes? They stood in silence, two warriors from different worlds, both carrying failures too heavy to speak aloud. Finally, Lyss extended her hand, a human gesture she must have learned. 72 hours. We close the portal or we die trying. Kael took her hand. Her skin was cool, smooth, and faintly electric. 72 hours.
The portal manifested in the asteroid field of the Kalos system, a tear in space that bled crimson light. From the observation deck of their insertion ship, the Vagrant, a stealth craft designed for impossible missions, Kael watched it pulse like a wounded heart. "It's beautiful," he said, surprising himself. "It's hungry," Lyss corrected. She stood at the navigation console, fingers dancing across controls. "Every pulse is a scream from the other side." The Shry called it the wound, not a portal someone created, but a tear in reality that something tore open from within. What's on the other side? We called them the architects, not because they build, because they unmake. They exist in dimensions we can't perceive, and when they touch our reality, they reshape it according to geometries that don't obey physics. Worlds don't explode, they fold into themselves, compressed into impossible angles until they simply aren't. Kael's stomach twisted. We're flying into that? The portal's threshold has a stabilization field. For 72 hours we can exist there. But deeper in, where the architects dwell, time and space become negotiable. She turned to face him. Stay close to me. My people develop techniques to anchor ourselves to this reality. Without that anchor, you'll drift into madness. The ship shuddered as they approached the portal's event horizon. Red light flooded the cockpit, and Kael felt a deep wrongness in his bones, like standing at the edge of a cliff in darkness. Entering portal in 3, 2, reality inverted. On the other side, geometry was optional. They stood, or floated, or fell, Kael couldn't tell, in a space that defied description. Surfaces existed at impossible angles. Distances contracted and expanded with each breath. Colors he had no names for painted the void. Don't look directly at the horizon, Lyss warned, her hand suddenly gripping his arm. The touch anchored him, pulled him back from the edge of unraveling. Focus on me, on the ship, on things you know are real. Kael forced his eyes to her face. The galaxy light in her eyes now made sense. She was a lighthouse in this chaos. How do we navigate this? We follow the screams. And he heard them now, not with his ears, but with something deeper. The faction that had opened the portal, trapped in perpetual transformation, their consciousnesses stretched across dimensions like paintings smeared across infinite canvas. Lyss guided them through the non-space, her movements precise despite the impossibility surrounding them. She was in her element here, Kael realized. Not comfortable, but competent. This horror was familiar to her. There, she pointed at something that might have been a structure or might have been a living thing. The anchor point, where the tear originates. We seal it there, the portal collapses. But between them and the anchor point, shapes moved. The architects. They defied description, beings of pure wrongness, bodies that exist in more dimensions than Kael could perceive. When he tried to focus on one, his mind stuttered, unable to process what his eyes reported. They've noticed us, Lyss breathed. We need to move, now. They ran, or swam, or climbed through the fractured space. The architects pursued, their presence warping reality around them.
Kael fired his rifle, the energy bolts curving in impossible trajectories, sometimes looping back toward him. "Weapons won't work here," Lyss shouted. "Reality is their canvas. They just repaint our attacks." An architect materialized in front of them, a tower of shifting angles that sang in frequencies that made Kael's teeth ache. He felt it reaching for him, not with limbs but with intention, trying to pull him into its dimensionality. Lyss threw herself between them. Her body erupted with silver light, Shry defensive techniques, anchoring reality around her like a shield. The architect recoiled, its form flickering. "Keep moving," she commanded, and he did, because stopping meant being unmade. The anchor point grew closer, a nexus of crimson energy, the wound's heart. But with each step, Kael felt himself fraying, his thoughts scattered, his memories blurred. He couldn't remember his name, his purpose, whether he was moving forward or backward, or inward or outward. Then Lyss's hand found his again. "Kael," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos, "listen to my voice. Remember who you are. Remember why we came." And he did. Not because the memories returned clearly, but because her certainty anchored him. She remembered for both of them. They reached the anchor point together.
Up close, it was a knot in space-time, a tangle of dimensions folded over themselves like scar tissue. Lyss pulled out a device from her pack, crystalline and pulsing with its own light. "This is a reality seal," she explained rapidly. "My people's last defense. It will force the dimensions to separate, cauterize the wound. But someone has to stay behind to activate it. The activation takes 30 minutes, and the portal will collapse in 20. Kael's fractured mind struggled to process this. "Stay behind? That's not the plan." "There never was a plan to get both of us out." Her galaxy eyes met his, and he saw the truth there. "I told you, I don't run from my responsibilities. This is my atonement." "No!" The word came out harder than he intended. "We do this together or not at all." "Kael, you said I carry ghosts. You're right, and I'm not adding you to them." He took the device from her hands. "You're the only one who can navigate this place, the only one who can anchor reality. I'm just a soldier, but you're the last guardian. Your people need someone to remember them, and that someone isn't going to be me." Lyss's composure cracked. "I can't let you." "You don't get to decide." He activated the seal, feeling it bond with his neural patterns. "Get back to the ship. Tell them we succeeded. Live, Lyss. That's an order from your partner." The architects sensed what was happening. They converged, a swarm of impossible shapes, desperate to stop the closure of their gateway. Lyss looked at him, this human she'd known for mere days, and something profound passed between them. Not love, exactly, not even friendship. Something deeper, recognition. Two people who'd failed their worlds, given one chance to make it right. "What's your full name?" she asked suddenly. "Kael Donovan." "Why?" "So I can remember you properly." She pressed her hand to his chest, over his heart. "Thank you, Kael Donovan, for giving me the chance to not fail twice." Then she ran, her form silver bright against the crimson chaos, back toward the ship. Kael turned to face the anchor point and the advancing architects. The seal hummed in his hands, counting down, 29 minutes. He thought about Earth, about blue skies he'd never see again, about Lyss making it back, carrying the story of what happened here, about all the worlds that would continue existing because two people from different stars decided to trust each other. 28 minutes. The architects reached him, their touch beginning the slow unraveling, but the seal held, its reality anchoring field protecting him just enough, just long enough. "Come on, then," he muttered to the impossible beings. "Let's see which of us is more stubborn." 27 minutes. Lyss piloted the vagrant through the collapsing portal with seconds to spare. As she cleared the threshold, she turned back once, seeing the crimson light flickering,
fading. Somewhere in that dying wound, Kael Donovan was holding the line. The portal collapsed with a sound like reality exhaling. Where it had been, only empty space remained. Clean, dark, normal space. Lyss sat in the pilot's seat, her hands shaking. She'd lost everything twice now, her people and the one person who'd understood what that meant. But the galaxy still turned, stars still burned, and somewhere on those worlds, people would live without ever knowing how close they'd come to unmaking. She set course for Command Station Osiris, composing her report in her mind. She would tell them everything, about Kael's bravery, about the architects, about how sometimes saving everything meant sacrificing the one person you couldn't afford to lose. The vagrant jumped to faster than light, leaving the Kalos system behind. But Lyss of the Seventh Watch, last guardian of the Crimson Gate, would return. She'd make sure Kael Donovan's name was etched in every database, every monument, every memorial. She'd tell his story until the words wore grooves in her memory. Because that's what partners did. They remembered, even when remembering hurt more than forgetting ever could.